Happy to be joined by one of the big winners at Dana White's Contender Series last week. Only needed 37 seconds. It is Nick Klein joining me here on the program. Nick, how you doing?
Fantastic. Feels good to finally break through a little bit.
Yes, and be a member of the UFC roster. Like when people say UFC middleweight, has that sunk in yet?
Not quite. I'm sure it will after my first fight. But yeah, the whole past 2 weeks, man, have just been surreal. I'm just so glad to have finally arrived a little bit and finally got to where I wanted to go. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say, not only did the fight catch a lot of people's attention, but obviously after the fight too. We'll get into all that. But did you expect the fight to end that quickly? I know, you go out there to finish, you don't get paid by the hour, but were you expecting 37 seconds prior to the fight?
No, not at all. So I didn't watch any film or anything on this guy. I said this to numerous other people, but I was just finishing up an 8-week camp for a 1-0 guy in Davenport, Iowa. And my teammate Wesley had gotten injured the Saturday before, kind of the week leading up to the fights. And I looked right at my coach and I'm like, I'll take, because Wesley was supposed to fight that Tuesday. I was fighting the Saturday before. And like I said, we were kind of a week out from that, from those fights. And so by the time I knew that I was actually, going to be fighting on Contenders, I had like 8 days to prepare. And I wasn't about to get in my own head on film of this guy or, what he looked like, what his tendencies were, nothing like that. I didn't pay any attention to film or put any time into it. I just told my coaches, if there was anything specific that I should look out for, that we would simulate that in some of the work coming up to the fight. And other than that, I was just going to go out and do my thing, man. I had nothing to lose. So, I was just going to give it my all. And my biggest concern was just to not be boring. I wanted to no matter what, just make sure it was going to be an exciting fight. And it was short, but it was exciting.
So I guess because you didn't really, like you said, your coaches kind of scouted him as an opponent. Were there any surprises in the fight, or I guess just with what you were given, you didn't have much to work with to even make that assessment?
Yeah. I landed one initial push kick, and it kind of pushed his whole body back, and I could see in his face immediately he was going to try and come in and to strike right off of that. And from there, I just timed my takedown entry, got him down, and landed a couple ground strikes that made him want to turn away and base up quick. And as soon as he went to do that, I committed to that choke. So.
And I mentioned that the finish obviously went viral. Everyone saw it. But after the fight, talking to Dana White about Jon Jones, was that off the hump? Like, did you sort of just do that on the fly, or was that something you had planned in your head prior to it? Because obviously we know Dana loves Jon Jones.
Yeah. I definitely planned to do it because I love Jon Jones. He's the GOAT in my book too. But I just thought it would be kind of a funny shtick, to just kind of stick the win, or stick the landing of the win, I guess. So I had asked my coaches about it because I'd already planned to just kind of point to them and tell them we'll be in touch if I got an exciting finish. I'm not going to go out and wrestle 3 boring rounds, and have everybody falling asleep, in their chair, and then go up and try to talk to them like I deserve to be signed. I knew I was only going to say something to them if I knew that I kind of had a contract in the, in the works or potentially secured. And, with the way I closed on that fight, I walked up and I said, we'll be in touch. And he looked at me and he nodded. And then he looked back at his monitor. And then I was like, hey, Jon Jones is the greatest fucking fighter to ever walk this earth. And I had asked my coaches, prior to fight day, if that was a good idea. And they were like, I don't know, you never know how it can come off. And I'm like, I think it's going to come off the right way, especially if I put on an exciting performance. And it just seemed like the right thing at the right time, man. Nobody else had done it yet, and I liked, Dana's definitely stood his ground on all of the media trying to question him or argue him on who the greatest of all time is. And I figured I'd just let him know right off the bat where I stood on that. So.
No, I like it. It worked out. Did you get anyone who didn't like it? Did people like, oh, you're sucking up to the boss? Because I can hear from your answer here that you absolutely do like Jon Jones. Like, I don't think it was something you just said. I'm sure you got a few haters though, just because how people are.
100%, man. But that's those are MMA casuals to begin with.
Right.
There can be guys that go on 9-fight losing or win streaks and then lose one fight, and those same casuals are like, I told you he wasn't that good. It's like So it's. Oh, at the end of the day, man, some people just want something to talk shit about, and if that's what you want to dog on, fine, man. I literally just made my dream come true. You could say whatever you want about it. I don't care.
Yeah, that doesn't affect your standing. Well, I think
No.
Jones in particular, it bothers me because for those who watch John Jones in his prime, a lot of people know how good he is. You see a lot of these newer fans go back and look at the resume and like, well, he beat this guy, but he went to middleweight later, like trying to discredit. Have you seen that online where people will go through John's resume and like nitpick at like little things when it's like back in the day, people don't realize those were the best fighters at the time.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the guy was killing the legends of the sport, and he was only like 21 years old. So, you know what I mean? And the way he was doing it at the time too, it's not like he was going out and putting on boring fights. It was exciting, and there was finishes almost every time, even if they did go to decision, they were spectacular performances, and just the in the fashion that he dominated the division the way he did in his day. No one's ever taken that from him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And since I got you here, got to ask you about that fight with Stipe. I think I know which side you're going, but how do you see the fight playing out with him and Stipe?
Dude, I'm a huge fan of them both, man, but I think Jones is going to steamroll him. I hope Stipe doesn't say this, or see me say this, but I think his time has passed. I think after that Ngannou fight, it may have definitely, maybe taken some of the last of the shine out of him, and it's probably better that he just retires. But, I'm going to say that now, and then Jones might get slept by him. That's why people always ask me if I bet on fights, and I'm like, never, because I'm wrong every single time. But I think Jones has it in the bag, man. He's, you follow his social media and stuff, and he's training with the best in the sport. He's optimizing every part of his training. And, I think if he wants to, could fight for a while longer yet, but I don't blame him for one bit, getting a win over Stipe and riding off into the sunset. What more do you have to prove anyway?
Well, that's just it. And I think a lot of newer fans don't get that. They didn't see the body of work at light heavyweight. Like he could have just retired after the Reyes fight if he wanted to, right? Because that in itself was a pretty big, legacy. And the whole idea of him going up to heavyweight was Ngannou, and obviously that didn't work out. So there's a lot of sort of optics there. But it's an interesting situation for sure. I can understand that. So I mentioned obviously, some people nitpicking at the Jones thing, but then you must have been getting a lot of love on social media. Like, what are your numbers? I'm sure a lot of people started following you and caring about you after that win, just because it really was the sort of stole the show,
Yeah. So I'm not very popular on social media at all. I have a Facebook. I deleted my Twitter long ago, just because I didn't use it. And then I've got an Instagram. I think I gained like 1,300 followers overnight on Instagram. Nice. And it's gone up a couple hundred since then, but nothing crazy. Okay. I was pretty shocked myself when I had seen like how viral some of those reels had went with like 300,000 likes and stuff on them. I'm like, wow, that's insane. But yeah, I mean, going forward, I think I'm going to try and be a little bit more active, on my Instagram and Facebook and stuff. Just because I think, for a lot of fighters and stuff after fighting, it's a way for them to make money. So it seems like something I should probably get going while the iron's hot.
Yeah, well, even analyzing fights, you just gave me a good breakdown of the Jones stuff there. So I think you got something here. Ride the wave, so to speak, right?
Yeah, so 100%.
When do you want to get back in there? Again, I know it was a bit of a whirlwind getting this fight, and it was only 37 seconds. I don't know if you're like fully healthy or like ideally, when would you like to get back in there?
Next week.
Okay, fair enough.
As soon as possible. As long as it's a fight that my team and my management and stuff, if we all think it's a good fight, I'm always, I'm never more than like 210 pounds. I'm never more than a week out from making 185. And I'm always in shape. I don't get really fat in between camps or anything like that. I mean, I've been doing this for the better part of a decade, and I'm always in shape. I'm always never more than 7 days out from making 185. So if a short notice opportunity comes up and me and my team like it, we'll definitely take it. Otherwise, if the UFC has other plans and they want me to wait until, like maybe January, February or something like that, that's fine. But ideally I'd like one in before the end of the year. I think fighting, maybe around Christmas or something would be sweet. I have no problem being on a prelim of, one of the big pay-per-views coming up. I know there's a Sydney card coming up. Dude, send me to Sydney. Part of doing this is being able to travel the world. And that's a big part that I'm really looking forward to. I know a lot of guys don't like the plane flights and stuff, man, like I've flown to Thailand before. I've been on a jet for, like 22 hours. So, a long plane flight's nothing for me. I'd be happy to go see Abu Dhabi or, someplace in Australia or New Zealand. I'll fly all around the world. It doesn't matter to me.
Now that you're on the roster now, any opponents kind of look fun to you? Any fights you hope to happen at some point as far as looking at the roster? Or are we still too early?
It's a little early. There's a couple names me and my team have picked out, but I don't want to start spewing out names or anything too early. But I can definitely say, there's a number of names on the roster that were kind of, are highlighted on the list. So.
Okay. I asked you about Jones and Stipe. There's the co-main event of that card is Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. How do you see that fight playing out?
I really like them both. I think Charles has a lot left on the table. I think Charles is going to beat him. But I've always been a big Chandler fan. I like the way he conducts himself, and I really look up to him in that way. And I want to be able to be as well spoken and respectful as he is. So as much as I like Chandler, I'm going to pick against him. But that doesn't take from me being a huge fan of his.
What about Aljamain Sterling and Movsar Evloev at featherweight? I know it's not your division, but that's a big fight coming up. You got a winner in that one?
Yeah, I want Sterling to take it. Just because
does he take it though? Do you think? Because obviously tough test against Evloev, who hasn't lost, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I hate having to predict these fights. I think Sterling's gonna win.
Okay. And just last one I wanted to ask you about, below your weight class, Bilal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov for the welterweight title. That's confirmed.
Boy.
Yeah.
Man, so Bilal has trained kind of in my area for some time. Because I train in Milwaukee, and I think he was at Duke's for a while. I think he might live in Chicago or something, somewhere nearby me. Man, what is Shavkat? He's like Mongolian or something, isn't he? Those guys.
I forget what his ethnicity is exactly, but like, I think he's Kazakh. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like some part of so like he's from that territory. Man, those are some tough people, dude. And that guy's just been on an absolute tear. As much as I'd really like for Bilal to hold the belt down, I think Shavkat's kind of a force, dude. I'm going to have to go with Shavkat.
Yeah, that makes sense. And by the way, just to confirm, born in Uzbekistan, fighting out of Kazakhstan. That's a little bit of a tongue twister there. So just wanted to clarify that. What do you got planned the rest of the week? Like, other than talking to guys like me, do you get a bit of time to kind of just, do the stuff that maybe you neglected kind of taking this fight, or what's on the docket for the rest of the week?
Just really kind of hanging out with the kids and stuff, getting I've had a lot of interviews, kind of getting all of those knocked out of the way. I'm gonna go talk to the local newspaper in my area come Thursday.
Oh, cool.
But after this coming Monday, dude, I'm going right back to work at my day job. I have my own concrete LLC that I run through the summer. I do my own concrete projects, but come like fall and winter and stuff, I actually work in the laborers union. So that was a big part of me shouting out, all the blue collar workers and stuff out there, because I am one of those. That's a true image of me. That's not a character at all. And I've got a high amount of respect for everybody in that line of work. And that's something I'll be going right back to. I think now things are going to be a little bit different when there's a fight and stuff booked. I'm going to obviously have to tell whatever company I'm working for that I'm not going to be at work the next 2 months, because I'm making enough money, through the fight to fund the camp going into it. But yeah, man, I'm going to go back to life as usual, and just with a couple more Instagram followers now.
That's awesome. So do you ever see yourself leaving your job? I mean, that's a pretty cushy gig, like, no, I don't mean cushy as it's easy, but obviously it's, pays well, and it's one of those like really good industries, right?
Yeah. So I've got, the big reason I'm going back isn't so much for the money, but the health insurance for my kids.
Oh yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But I've said this for years, man. Like I've got a beautiful house, home, family, kids, the dogs, the whole 9 yards. And I feel like a lot of guys, and along with a job that pays well with good health insurance and stuff. And I feel like a lot of guys grow that level of comfort and then are okay to just, kind of the dog in them that makes them want to fight goes away a little bit. And it's never left me. It's just something that I really, really enjoy doing. It's something for me to constantly work toward. And so I'm going to, once I make enough money doing the fighting, I'll probably let the day job go, once there's enough commas in the bank account. But for now, my kids still need health insurance, and, I still need a steady income in between fight camps and stuff. But who knows, man, going 4-0 on a UFC contract, by the time that's renegotiated, and as often as I'd like to fight, I might not have to do it much longer. Yeah,
that's good. How old are your kids?
My oldest daughter, Raven, is 6. My second daughter is Phoenix, and she's 3. And then my son's name is Titan, and he's a year and a half.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got a 7-year-old, 2 boys. I got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I can.
Awesome, man. You gonna go for
I
three?
commend anyone who has 3 kids. I think like 2 for my wife and I is enough. It's good, but
Yeah, I tried to talk to Mama about, going to the doctor and getting fixed after 2, but she didn't agree with me. And I was a little bit angry at the time, and then I found out I was gonna have a son, and I'm like,
yeah, I can understand. I have 2 boys, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love having. I mean,
exactly.
I'm a big sports guy.
I was super happy with 2 daughters, very content with that. And then she told me that she took a test, and I'm like, oh, I automatically just prepared for 3 daughters because I already had 2. And then we went to the ultrasound, and they're like, it looks like it's a baby boy. And I'm like, fuck yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm like, but now I'm going to see a urologist, and I'm getting a vasectomy. I'm not asking you this time. As soon as baby's born healthy, I'm getting the operation done. So no more kids for me now. But yeah, happy to have one from each side though.
Yep. No, that's cool. And what a cool fight, man. Thanks again for taking the time to talk about it. If there's anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just want to shout out my gym down in Milwaukee, Pura Vida BJJ and MMA. And whoever's watching this, if you guys want to give me a follow on Instagram, I'm combat_Klein. That's pretty much it. Other than that, I'm just Nick Klein on my Facebook. So, but yeah, man.
There we go. All right, man. We are done.